Breast of veal, stuffed breast of veal, fresh ham, Virginia ham,
pork chops, shrimp, made a lot of shrimp.
Shrimp.
Shrimp, and the dishwasher couldn't say shrimp, he had no teeth to call it shrimp. So
Shrimp.
Grandma called it shrimp. She made shrimp salad.
She made shrimp salad. And she used to wash her hands with club soda because that washed away all the bad stuff.
And then we used to take the dog into the store. Just couldn't leave him home alone. And somebody came in and asked if our hamburger was any good. I said, you see that pedigree dog over there? He eats it. And if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for you.
And Poppy, for a man who didn't like animals,
He loved that dog.
he loved that dog. He used to take him out and feed him and play with him. And when he got lost one afternoon, he got in a car and he rode around and he found him at some service station a couple of blocks away in the bay underneath where they
Somebody must
lifted.
have snatched him.
And he went in and got him, and he was all covered with grease, but he put him in a car and he brought him back. And Calvy used to love him. Calvy would sit in in my house, and he'd keep putting his head into the living room because my father had his chair there.
Because when Poppy was around, it wasn't allowed in there.
And as soon as Poppy went upstairs and the toilet flushed, he was going to sleep, Calvy would come like a bat out of hell.
He would wait for the toilet to flush, and then he ran
right
into
the chair, sat and rolled himself up in the chair, but kept looking up to see if my father would come down again.
Okay, so we're ready for another story. Tell us about your grandparents and what happened when they got a television set.
My grandmother, Bubba Paja, and my grandfather, Zadie McCall. All the grandchildren chipped in and they bought them a small TV. At the time, that's the only thing they had, small TVs. And as usual, every Sunday, I would drive my mother and my father to, if Mildred was around during the war, we would drive over to see Bubby and Zeta. And one night we come there on a Sunday evening, we come in, and Zadie was all dressed in his blue suit, white shirt, and tie. And we say, Zadie, where you going? He said, Grandma's got company coming. I said, who's coming? He says, he points to the TV. Milton Berle is coming. He's coming to visit us tonight. So she says I had to get dressed. That's why I'm dressed.
And that story.
That's I tell you, just speaking to those people, I just look back at, to me it was a chore going to visit Grandma and Grandpa. But being a grandpa and a grandma or a papa, it's very different. You look forward to a grandchild or a child coming to visit or call. In my case, we get calls 3 times a day, so we're okay, no complaints.
The next one was there was a lot of talk about what was going on with your grandfather and prohibition and booze in the bathtub.
I don't know how old I was, but they died, I think, in 36. And being I was born in 29, this was about 1934, 35. They lived on the same block as we did in Brooklyn. And my grandfather was a nice guy, but I was always afraid of him because he wore the dark suits and that brimmed hat. And my grandmother, she always scared the crap out of me. She looked so mean. And they talked me into sleeping there one night. But I fooled them. They had to bring me home in the middle of the night. Because I tried to use the bathroom and they said I couldn't go in there because the bathtub was full of bathtub gin. But nobody will admit it today. They'll say he used to make wine, kosher wine. And if you believe that, you believe in the tooth fairy. It was prohibition, and he was making bathtub gin.
And did you like school that they made you go to, the religious school?
Oh no, I despise parochial school like you have no idea. I was so bad, I never behaved there. In fact, one time they called my father because in Hebrew, Menahel means principal. But if you take off the nun, which is a Hebrew letter, it says Moel. Moel is the guy who gives you the circumcision.
Tell me about your sisters.
Well, I scraped that off, and of course my father got cold, and I got whacked in the head, and all that stuff. They took me out of BS 180, which was a public school that I liked. I actually liked school, and put me into this parochial school. Well, half a day was Hebrew, and the afternoons was English. I didn't mind the English even though I was bad. The Hebrew part, there was a lot of gobbledygook to me. And they used to get up and say the prayer. Now I understand it was the one Shema Yisrael and Hear O Israel. That's a standard thing. And then they get finished and everybody was kissing their undershirts. But I didn't know it wasn't the undershirts. It was tzitzis, which I had no idea what it was. They took me out of public school and put me into this concentration camp. And I was kissing my underwear for a couple of months until I got whacked and had this, where's your tzitzis? I didn't know what it was. Then my father yelled at me, no less, why I was kissing my underwear. I should have told him that. I said, I didn't know.
Okay. Do you remember much about Grandma Garter, Sonia's mom, Paja? What she did, or was she nice, or was she mean, or do you...
She was a very, very nice person. Everybody loved her. She was like my mother. Sweet person, elderly. And it wasn't until later on that I found out that she was a nurse. My mother was very devoted to her, and Max Knoffel, which was her second husband. For as far as I knew, he was my grandfather. He was the kindest, greatest guy. And I said, someday, when I become grandfather, I want to be just like him. He was liked by everybody.
Tell him what he did.
Huh?
But he played it to him.
Oh, he used to play clarinet at the steeplechase in Coney Island. With the, in those days they had the band, the guy with the straw hat and the cane, put you in, and he'd play in that band. And he was pretty good at it.